KYKO Dynamic Personality Dimension by KYKO Profiling Solutions. Introduction. Contemporary personality assessment tests are useful for predicting simple people's personalities whose behavior patterns are constant and persistent in various situations and from time to time. They will experience problems in reading complex human beings whose behavior patterns vary or fluctuate with different people, situation. Why establish the KYKO Dynamic Dimension? KYKO Dynamic Personality was established to address the pitfall of reading complex human beings whose behavior patterns vary or fluctuate with different people, situations and times. Multiple theoretical constructs. KYKO Dynamic Personality was founded from the integration of the stimulus response, social learning, cognitive, biological and evolutionary schools of personality theory. KYKO Premise 1. Human personality lies in the continuum of relatively simple and complex, supported by stimulus response theory, behaviorism, and stimulus, gap, response, cognitive, theory. Premise 2. Human behavior is a function of genes inherited from ancestral family trees. Premise 3. Human behavior is a function of the environment. Therefore, human personality is sensitive to the changes of the environment. Changes of the environment can influence changes in the personality. Likewise, changes in the personality can influence changes in the environment. Premise 4. Human behavior can be learned. Behavior learned can be unlearned or defreezed using appropriate interventions, training and therapies. Premise 5. People suffering from personality or mental illness or disorders lies in the continuum of neurotic and psychotic. Their behaviors changes for no apparent reasons due to manic depressions and mood swings. Dynamic personality defined. Defined as the deliberate adjustment, alteration or variation of the magnitude of the need, drive, desire and want for the 5 dimensions via self-actualization, egocentric, sociocentric, security and complexity to adapt to the turbulent changes of the environment for survival and growth. KYKO Dynamic Personality Dimensions. Dynamic self-actualization. Dynamic egocentric. Dynamic sociocentric. Dynamic security. Dynamic complexity. Dynamic self-actualization dimension is defined as the deliberate adjustment, alteration or variation of the magnitude of the need, drive, desire and want for achievement, commitment, growth, self-satisfaction, fulfillment, integrity, to seek goodness and salvation and use one's intellectual ability to become a fully functioned person and live a meaningful life. Dynamic self-actualization. The deliberate adjustment, alteration or variation of the magnitude of the need, drive, desire, want for achievement, commitment, growth, self-satisfaction, fulfillment, integrity, seeking goodness and salvation, using their intellectual ability to become a fully functioned person, living a meaningful life. Due to internal conflict and external factors. Definition of the factors of the dynamic self-actualization. Dynamic achievement orientation. The attitude and motivation to perform and produce results deliberately varies with the level of happiness or frustration in the workplace. Dynamic growth needs. The willingness for personal development and to seek knowledge and skills rest on the availability of opportunities for promotion and to improve the quality of life. Dynamic work passion. Work passion fluctuates as a result of being happy or unhappy with the job, policies and culture of the organization. Dynamic value system. The tendency for one's values and integrity to fluctuate from high to low or otherwise as a consequence of internal conflicts with the environment factors. Dynamic value system. The tendency for one's values and integrity to fluctuate from high to low or otherwise as a consequence of internal conflicts with the environment factors. Dynamic thinking. The variation and combination of creative thinking, critical thinking, strategic thinking, and decision-making and problem-solving. Dynamic egocentric dimension is defined as the deliberate adjustment, alteration or variation of the magnitude of the ego due to internal and external factors in satisfying the need, drive, desire and want for power, dominance, image, persistency, challenges, recognition, and control of the environment. Dynamic egocentric. The deliberate adjustment, alteration or variation of the magnitude of the ego due to internal and external factors in satisfying the need, drive, desire, want for power, dominance, image, persistency, challenges, recognition, control of the environment. Definition of the factors of the dynamic egocentric personality. Dynamic self-confidence. The tendency to become inconsistent in the level of self-confidence when dealing with complexities and challenges of a situation. Dynamic mental toughness. The propensity to vary in resilience and persistency in overcoming difficulties, barriers and challenges. Dynamic self-image. The aptitude to position oneself and putting up a low or high profile to suit the situation. Dynamic dominance. The deliberate act of being hard or being soft in dealing with people and situations. Dynamic taking charge. The ability to make the right choice to lead or follow others under different circumstances. Dynamic sociocentric dimension is defined as the deliberate adjustment, alteration or variation of the magnitude of the need, drive, desire and wants for affiliation, love, care, compassion, comradeship, in order to maximize or minimize social interaction and acceptance to suit a personal motive. Dynamic sociocentric. The deliberate adjustment, alteration or variation of the magnitude of the need, drive, desire, want for affiliation, love, care, compassion, comradeship, social interaction, acceptance, to achieve a purpose or to suit personal motives. Definition of the factors of the dynamic sociocentric personality. Dynamic altruism. The deliberate choice of giving love, care and attention to well-being of others. Dynamic team player. The tendency to be selective in working with a group or team. Dynamic warmth. The tendency to be friendly, amiable and cordial to a selected group of people. Dynamic empathy. The tendency to empathize with favored people. Dynamic relationship. The tendency to choose people to establish, build and maintain a close relationship. Dynamic security dimension is defined as the deliberate adjustment, alteration or variation of the magnitude of the need, drive, desire and wants for safety, protection, regularity, stability, compliance, orderliness and precision caused by internal and external factors. Dynamic security. The deliberate adjustment, alteration or variation of the magnitude of the security need, want, desire due to internal and external factors in satisfying the need, drive, desire, want for safety, protection, regularity, stability, compliance, orderliness, Precision. Definition of the factors of the dynamic security personality. Dynamic safety. The deliberate act of choosing between playing safe or exposure to hazards, injuries, and uncertainties or taking a risk. Dynamic system compliance. The deliberate choice of adhering to or the bending of rules and regulations. Dynamic personal organization. The tendency to organize and put things in order on the need-to basis. The propensity to organize on a need-to basis. Dynamic precision. The deliberate act of choosing between being precise, accurate and detail-oriented or otherwise to suit the nature and quality of work required. Dynamic certainty. The deliberate act of choosing between making speculations and assumptions or being factual and proven. Dynamic complexity dimension is defined as the deliberate adjustment, alteration or variation of the complexity magnitude to be selective in utilizing and disseminating information, doing an in-depth analysis, influencing and getting support, being adaptable and flexible and to use people, situation and the environment for survival and to achieve dominant goals. Definition of the factors of the dynamic complexity personality. Dynamic environmental awareness. The aptitude and ability to be selective in gathering and absorbing information and being well informed of the changes in the environment. Dynamic adaptation. The deliberate choice or discretion to be rigid or flexible in dealing with people and situations. Dynamic influencing. The deliberate choice of whom to persuade, convince and influence for support and to make things happen. Dynamic information and dissemination. The discretion or choice to disseminate, filter and withhold the relevant information to the right people. Dynamic cognition. The discretion to use the mental set of skills or otherwise in addressing challenges. Conclusion. With the establishment of KYKO dynamic personality, it enables us to predict patterns of behavior of high-complexity people more accurately. These people usually consist of the upper echelons of our society, for example, the president, politician, CEO, and head of an entity.